Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the R&R podcast. I am your virulent and valiant host, Robert Jones, along with the one, the only, the shorter than you realize on TV, Randy Watkins.
Oh, yeah, brother. You know what tonight is, Robert. Tonight is the Royal Rumble. Oh, yeah. Tonight, I'm going to get revenge on that Hulk Hogan from 1989 when he threw me out of the ring. Oh, yeah, I will get him back. Him and his sex tape. He's going to get it, boy.
So, Mr. the Savage, if I may, first of all, it's amazing to speak to you from beyond the grave. But secondly, I thought you and Hulk Hogan buried the axe years ago.
Oh, the only thing I buried was a Slim Jim in his anus the last time he talked about my wife.
Mr. Savage, are you coming out as a homosexual on the R&R Sports Podcast trademark 2018?
Shoving a Slim Jim up another man's ass is not homosexual, Robert. Oh, yeah, it's a little bit of excitement, let me tell you, brother.
So just a little wiggle? Just a little wiggle? Just a little thunder down under?
If his weenie flinched just a little bit, then that's on him.
You know what? Every time we lure in a few viewers, we just push them away. Just push them. That's what we do. We just push them away. Ostensibly, this is the show about sports, but we talk about a lot of other stuff too. Randy and I are also avid, classic wrestling fans, and we would rather talk some wrestling tonight than we would about the dumpster fire that is the Pro Bowl, which also happened today at a certain point. And I don't know if you watched it. I sure as shit didn't. I have no reason to.
I watched about a quarter of it, and that was enough. A shitty day in Orlando, a shitty day for a game.
Like I'd almost rather watch Pop Warner football.
Yeah.
Now wait a minute.
Yeah, well, they had like NFL flag football on before the game of like, college athletes or high school athletes. No, maybe it wasn't college. So high school kids, and it was way more entertaining than the actual game.
Yeah, because they actually wanted to win, Randy. What a novel idea. So wait, you said Orlando? It was in Orlando this year?
Yes, they've quit doing Hawaii for the last few years.
I think. Goes to show you how much I pay attention.
Which is complete. Well, I mean, it's complete bullshit. All the players hate it. I mean, it was pouring down raining, Robert. And here's the other thing. So watching the game, what do you expect from if you're watching an all-star game from any sport? What should you come to expect?
You would expect the best of the best in the league competing.
Right.
But guess what happens the week after the Pro Bowl?
The Super Bowl.
And guess who winds up in that big game?
The best of the best.
Best of the best. Right? Theoretically, in theory.
Theoretically.
But I'm sure some people got to see Drew Brees play another game, right?
Actually, he wasn't there. I don't know if he chose to bow out or what. I'd have to look it up after the show. But
he's exploring all of his legal avenues.
A lot of players injured. A lot of players just frankly don't give a damn about playing in the game.
Yeah, I was really disappointed that Cam Newton didn't show up. But he did have shoulder surgery on Thursday. So.
Yeah, it might not be a good opportunity to throw a wet ball, especially a wet ball.
But boy, you got them wet balls. Oh, I hate them wet balls. But right out of your finger.
The thing that bothers me the most, Robert, is that it was basically a game of two-hand touch because they weren't even tackling. So if you were the ball runner and you caught the ball or you ran the ball, and as soon as somebody surrounded you and grabbed you around your waist, they blow the play dead. So there's no hits at all.
I will say the events that lead up to the Pro Bowl at the Pro Bowl are way more interesting than the actual Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So I watched some of the dodgeball the other day, and that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd rather watch. So instead of making them play football, have like an intramural league that all the players show up for. So it's like basketball, dodgeball, bicycling, stupid crap, like what the egg and the spoon race. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Stupid crap. Hell, even make them run 100-yard dashes against each other. And
Randy, you're on camera now when you pick a booger.
Just use completely random stuff. Yeah, I mean, a wheelbarrow race. How about Rob?
Oh, yeah, but you're actually holding the guy's legs and they're having to walk like this? Are you kidding me? I'd throw prop bets on that today.
But make the offensive tackle ride in the wheelbarrow and the safety.
The kicker finally gets to be the hero, but they've got to hold up like the other guy's legs.
Right. But I mean, dude, I tuned in just to see what it would look like. And there are some big name stars. Andrew Luck was in the game. You have a couple of other, big stars, Jarvis Landry, Zeke Elliott,
Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes was the MVP of the game, but I mean, it's just hot garbage trying to watch that game. They don't even tackle. And the thing about the Pro Bowl that sticks out to me is still that Sean Taylor hit on Brian Moorman, the punter, back 15 years ago when they actually hit people.
Yeah.
So,
I remember, what was it, about 3 or 4 years ago? Shoot, now I'm going to blank on his name. The star guy in Texas on the defense.
JJ Watt.
JJ Watt, thank you very much. He got like his finger and his nose broken in a Pro Bowl game. Do you remember that?
I don't.
He came off the field and he had like blood running down his face and a broken finger. And you're like, oh, jeez. Like somebody had pushed their fingers into his face mask and crushed his nose. And he's on camera getting interviewed with like blood running down his face. And it's just like,
that's football. That's football, though. The blood, sweat, and tears, not the two-hand touch crap that they made them play today.
Yeah.
If this is a reward for those guys, then tell me as a player, how is that enjoyable? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and there's no defense, and the offenses just do crazy stuff, and there's a huge disparity between the two teams. I mean, it's like one team seems to take it more seriously than the other, and so we start. I heard Mitch Trubisky was in there, and it's like, okay, is he really one of the top 3 best quarterbacks in the NFC? I don't think so. Right.
Well, he is when. Drew Brees isn't there, Cam Newton, some, of the other stars. Russell Wilson was there, but the NFC, Aaron Rodgers never goes. And quite frankly, he didn't have a great year, but, Tom Brady, I mean, he's in the Super Bowl, Robert, but he hasn't been since 2005.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
So, so the biggest name stars aren't there. So, and like, the crowd was just laughable. Like, it's like maybe all the people that didn't go to Disney World that day came over.
Yeah.
But, it was, a lot of open seats. I'll tell you that.
I haven't seen that many lame ducks since I went to a hockey game in Anaheim, Randy.
But hey, we had 2 great championship games this past,
and both insanely controversial. Unfortunately. And I'm really bummed because the matchup that I really wanted didn't happen. I think it was the matchup most of America wanted, and that was a Rams Kansas City rematch. I think that would have been the most exciting Super Bowl, period.
I agree.
I think that the Saints Patriots Super Bowl is the most boring Super Bowl. You've got 2 aging quarterbacks. And here's the deal. To me, Breeze is a better quarterback right now than Brady. Brady threw up a lot of lame ducks. Brady threw 2 picks and 1 pick that was called back in his championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two of them, they're playing on completely different levels. But Brady's going to be the one that's heralded. And I'm not a Breeze fan at all.
Right.
Quite frankly, I thought the Rams were the better team. But that last call, or it's not the last call of the game because they went on to play overtime. But it completely changed the outcome of the game. I mean, it did. And everybody's probably familiar with the play at this point, but we should recap. There was a pretty blatant pass interference call that was missed late in the 4th quarter while the Saints were driving. On the flip side, there were BS pass interference calls made in favor of the Patriots in the Kansas City game.
Yes. There were just some bad calls all around. Two great games. And if you didn't watch it, the first half of each game was completely different than the second half. And in the Saints and the Rams game, Zuerlein was kind of the unspoken hero for the Rams. But they, like you said, they down about the 20-yard line on third down with the Saints driving the ball with a minute and a half left, I think it was. There was a no call, and I watched that play, Robert, probably 50 times, and
it's blatantly pass interference. The ball's not
is
tipped. No, I mean I'm not going to argue that, and that's even as a Rams fan. It's a huge blown call.
It was either that or they were going. The Saints were going to score. That was a scoring play, Robert. There was no way that the Rams linebacker or DB was ever going to make it over to cover that play. Because if you watch, he's in the middle of the field when he comes over to cover on that play. Because the outside DB goes in with the tight end. He cuts to the middle, and he comes flying out of nowhere and just cleaned his clock.
In fairness, though, it's not like that play would have really taken off if it wasn't for the context, because they were at the sideline and it was not a great throw. I mean, it would have been a difficult catch regardless, but yeah, he was pushed out of bounds as the ball was coming to him.
Well, they love to get these, and if you watch the Chiefs game, they were doing the same thing. They get people out of the backfield in space and throw the ball ahead of them so they can hit the ball 7-8 yards down the field, and they're already at a running sprint. So instead of catching the ball, then trying to make a football move, they caught it on the run, and it's easily a 15-20 yard gain.
Sure.
It's funny to see those two offensives doing that. And you and I talked heavy about the last Saints-Rams game and how the Saints got the benefit of a lot of the calls in that game.
Yep.
So it's funny how the other side of the coin happened this time when all of America, the entire country, sees this blatant no call. And there is, if you go back and watch the play, the line judge or the field judge is standing 8 feet from where he got hit. And they're supposed to be focused on the sideline. And you got another guy that's supposed to watch the receiver. So, oh, man, it's as a football fan, I have to say I'm pretty disappointed in the no call.
Yeah.
I would feel bad. I know you would feel bad if it was the Panthers. I would feel bad if it was the Redskins and my team was robbed of a Super Bowl title. But at the end of the day, they are bang plays.
Sure.
They happen extremely fast.
But let's also say one thing.
Okay.
Again, I agree with you completely. But now let my Panthers fan come out. The Saints had an opportunity in overtime to win it, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And they blew a big lead against the Rams. They had shut the Rams down in the first half, and they let them come back. And the Rams took it from them at home.
Yeah.
If they had continued on their original trajectory, it wouldn't be close. But they started playing like my cardiac cats, and you let a team come back on you. They're younger. They want it more. They're going to push.
Yeah, that they did.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate for the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I hate, because now Rams fans who are happy to be in the Super Bowl feel like they're getting, crapped on by the rest of the league for a bad call by the referee. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It's absolutely, completely, and totally pass interference, and it should have extended the play. And then, yeah, the Saints would have had a chance to put some more points on the board. We don't know if they would have. They very well could have, but they
could have missed. They could have pulled a Cody Parkey and missed the field goal.
Sure,
we don't know that, but what we do know, Robert, is there would have been no time left at the end of the game of a tie game. They could have run it down to under 10 seconds and kicked the field goal, and at that point the Rams could have done nothing.
It's an interesting point too. You and I were talking about this, and we're trying to keep the episode short a little bit tonight, so we'll just have to get into this a little quick. It was an unchallengeable play because it was a no call. Mm-hmm. And you and I may feel a little differently on this, but my feelings are this. Everything is challengeable or nothing is. Mm-hmm. If we're going to do this, where a referee can have a no call like this and there's no way to challenge it, then let's just be baseball, And I hate that, because I'm a big fan of replay and fixing plays, but we saw blatant plays in the Pats Kansas City game, catches that weren't catches. The balls hit the ground, they weren't catches, and they'd rule them as a catch and then review them and say we didn't see enough to take it back when you could clearly see the ball hit the ground and move around without control.
Mm-hmm. They don't want every challenge to overturn the call in the field, because then they nullify their ability to call games correctly. So
honestly, I don't even know why we allow human error to come into it anymore. That's the thing with baseball that's frustrating as a fan. We have a perfect system for determining strikes and balls. There is no reason to have a human do it anymore. And I know baseball purists are like, but the strike zone changes night to night. And I think that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And as a batter, when I play, it frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah.
You spend hours practicing for one zone, one area, one reflex trigger, and you have some guy who throws it out of the zone and it gets called a strike.
Right. So I was thinking about this, and I think you're right. We do have differing opinions on the challenging aspect of it. I think my solution, or a thing that I thought about the most, was just if you're going to, I think challenging calls, any call on the field, is a long rabbit hole. But I do think if it's inside of 2 minutes, just like every touchdown is reviewable, just like every scoring play is, anything within inside 2 minutes pretty much is reviewable. Why not make anything inside of 2 minutes challengeable, where the outcome of a game is not changed by not only, Robert, we talk about pass interference, but there also was helmet to helmet.
Sure. Roughing the passer. That wasn't a roughing the passer in the Kansas City game.
But on that on that same play, the helmet to helmet on a defenseless receiver, you could also call him that.
Sure.
And he had some face guarding in there. So there could have been at least 3 calls made on that one play. I thought it was interesting, and I don't hold any weight to it, Robert, but ESPN was reporting today that 4 of the officials from that game live in Southern California.
They're just looking for a story. The Rams haven't even been in the Southern California area for 2 years. And I know they used to be in LA 30 years ago, but you know what I mean? Whatever. They're desperate for a storyline because there is no storyline.
Yeah.
They also had a story about today, like, oh, Goff is actually a really funny quarterback. And it's like, who the fuck cares? They're like, he's a real jokester on the team. And it's like, wow, we really have run out of analysis for this game coming up next week because we still have 6 days to kill.
Right.
Here's the deal. Here's what I think. And there's a reason why the NFL doesn't want to do this, because it's too ambiguous. But the NFL has their hub of all these officials in New York with all these TV screens. When a coach challenges something, send it to the guys who have 15 different angles of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it shouldn't take a minute and a half of TV time. It should take 30 seconds. They look at it. They know the rules. They review it. It comes back, yay or nay, done. I also think that if you win a challenge, you don't lose a challenge. We can do the 2-challenge system, but you have 2 challenges until you've been proven wrong.
Not a bad idea.
I think that's fair. If we're really going to get right down to it, because you should not be penalized for being correct that they were wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you were right, so we won't charge you a timeout, but we will take your challenge.
I like the idea of having the guys in New York kind of make the call because they do have the better angles. Although I will say, then Microsoft can't push the Surface Pro.
Whatever. I know. Who cares? The guy, here's the deal. The umpire, the lead referee on the field is personally invested that his crew did the right job.
Right.
Take him out of it. Take him out of it.
Completely take him out of it.
Yeah.
So we know how the Rams Saints game ended. So they get the ball in overtime. Everybody thinks, okay, here's Drew Brees' time. He's the primetime spotlight guy. You give him the ball in overtime, he's going to drive down and win the game. And the Rams defense, and I was texting you about this, finally broke through. The Saints defense had done a pretty good job on Aaron Donald. And they finally break through, and Dante Fowler causes an interception, which completely turns the tides.
Yep. The
Rams go 3 and out after that. They don't move the ball at all. But then, Greg Zuerlein hits a 57-yard field goal to win the game. Just an incredible, incredible game, I thought.
Benefit of being in the dome too. Man, we've seen some crazy 64 yards from Graham Gano this year, 57 yards from Gerline. It's just it's insane the distance these kickers have now. I mean, what made Gano so impressive was it was outdoors. 64 yards outdoors.
64 is a blast.
God, 64 yards.
When I'm sure you can remember when we were kids, you know, it was like 52 was the longest.
I remember being a tween, Randy, and hitting a kick over 40 yards was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like 50 was unimaginable.
Right.
But like he's a 44-yarder. He hasn't hit a 44-yarder all season. And you're like, oh man. And now you've got guys who's like, well, his kicking range is 58 yards, and so at 51, this should be an easy chip shot for him. And you're like, what the 51 yards? That's almost half of a field.
Yeah. You know, and I think that TV does us injustice when it comes to that, Robert, but when you see it live or you see it in person, how long really a 57, 60 or 60-yard field goal is.
Freaking hell of a kick.
That's a long-ass one.
I've done some field goal kicking, you know, playing soccer for so many years. I used to do field goal kicking for fun. Yeah. And that kind of distance is insane. I didn't have that. I mean, and then we complain when those guys bang one off the post and it's like,
yeah.
Do you realize footballs are not designed to do what they do? In fact, where they kick a football, so footballs like this, they're aiming for a square this big on the back side of the football for their toe to go in to get max distance and perfect revolution.
Right. Yeah, that's insane what they do.
Crazy. All right, we gotta move on.
Okay, so I did want to talk about the Chiefs Patriots a little bit, and you touched on it. But I thought one of the worst calls of that game was that catch that you were talking about with Chris Hogan. And you and I were texting back and forth, and the first thing I texted you was no catch. I mean, there was no way that was a catch.
Obviously, no catch.
The ground, you know, his hand didn't stay underneath it, and I hate that ambiguity. Did his hand stay underneath it, and then it hit the ground, or did the ground make it? The ball freaking moved, dude.
Yes, it was not a catch. It was very clearly not a catch. Everywhere you reviewed it was not a catch. Here's the deal, man.
That ball, and
they love the Patriots to be in the Super Bowl, and by they, I mean the league. And I know I've said this before, but it's the absolute truth. It benefits them because if they win, they sell more merchandise. If they lose, people love the Patriots to be the villain. The problem is we've done it like 10 freaking times. I know. Over it. Can't we have anyone else?
Yes, I know. And
here's the deal. What's most frustrating about it is that people are like, here's Tom Brady again. Great quarterback. He had an awful quarterback rating in the game. He threw up lame ducks all night long, and it took calls from the referees to change the outcome of the game.
Yes. Yo, the roughing the passer call, like you said on him, was awful, dude. It was awful.
Awful. The final play of the game, or what should have been the final play of the game, where they intercept the ball and they call a defensive encroachment.
Yeah. Completely away from the ball.
Completely away from the play. It didn't change the outcome of the play. It's just, God, Randy, like it's just, and yeah, you know, a Pats fan looks at that and says, a Pats fan looks at that and says, well, he was in the neutral zone. He wasn't supposed to be there. And it's like, yes, you're technically correct. Just like somebody's holding somebody every freaking play.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a matter of, do they call it or not?
That's what makes me feel like the fix is in. And that's why I know I've told you this for years. I just don't buy it. Like, it's really hard because you get so invested, but it just seems and feels so manufactured. It feels like Disney World. You know what I mean?
Well, and the thing, you and I were texting back and forth about the Brady roughing the passer was Mahomes got throat punched in the series before that, and
they weren't calling consistently. You know,
there was no call on that. So the Patriots scored with 40 seconds left. They give the ball to Mahomes, and he does his job, dude, and does it well, Robert.
Yep.
Man, that kid is just going to be something special.
He proved that they could score on any down they needed to.
Yeah, and they kick a field goal.
Mahomes, to begin with, scored too quickly. He gave Tom Brady too much time.
Yep. Man, he had an awesome second half. I mean, they pretty much shut them down, the Chiefs down in the first half, and Mahomes came out firing in the second half. They scored right out of the break. But So they go to overtime. The Patriots win the coin toss, and Mahomes doesn't get the ball back at all. But the thing that surprised me the most about that drive, Robert, was, man, that defense of the Chiefs was gassed.
They gave up 3rd and long over and again. But they look at it. They've been on the field for so many minutes in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, they were gassed.
You could
I
say,
was surprised that Andy Reid didn't call a timeout, man. But I don't know why you just regroup. It's because they're just the 3rd and 10s. They were all going to Edelman. Dude, stop Edelman. Knock his ass out at the line. Something.
Well, the other thing is that but it's easy to say, but when it wasn't Edelman, they were getting it to Gronk, who'd be in double coverage and still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also heard them saying, look at him hitting Gronk. That would anybody else, that'd be, a penalty. And it's like
wailing like
he's 6
on
foot
every
8,
play.
He's a 6'8", 300-pound gorilla. I don't want to hear it. He has a physical advantage on everyone on the field. He's the size of a linebacker. But I catch ball, Randy. I catch ball.
He flails like he just got punched in the mouth on every play when he gets hit off the line.
I'm sorry. When you're 6'8", stop flopping. Okay.
That's exactly. You're looking for the call. So disappointing into that game, because I, like you, wanted a Chiefs Rams finale. Thought it would be a better Super Bowl. But hey,
can you imagine a Super Bowl where they scored 120 points, Randy? Can you wrap your head around that? Talk about a great game. And now we're just going to have this it's not going to happen. But I just want the Rams.
Sub Rams for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they have the same damn thing as last year, Robert.
I would just love for the Rams. And like I said, it's not going to happen. But if they just crushed the Patriots. I mean, just you remember Alabama in the title game? And they're like, this is going to be a game. And then Clemson's just
That would be so awesome.
And here's the Schadenfreude here. Tom Brady goes down in the first drive. Not career ending, but he ruins his manicure.
Oh yeah. When they showed him after the AFC championship game, Robert, I mean, he just oh man, you just want to punch the guy in the face.
You really do. You really do.
He's he's just he's got the biggest stupid smile on his face, and he's just we went out there and played a hell of a game and blah, blah. I'm just so proud of my guys. I want to say I love you, Mom and Dad. I love you guys at home. I love my beautiful wife. It's shut up.
It's bullshit, too. It's all about his brand. Here's the deal, man. I cannot wait till some Patriots trainer 5 years from now comes out and does a tell-all like they did on Lance Armstrong. And they're like, oh, yeah, they all cheated. Here's the evidence. Oh, man, everybody cheated all the time.
Right.
The things they got caught for was 1/10 of what they were doing.
In an era that is so rare to make it to the Super Bowl, not only to make it there, but to win. I mean, look at the Saints, man. The last 2 years, they've had a really good football team, and they've lost twice on flukes. One of their problem and one of could be another problem, Yeah. But it is so hard, Robert, to make it to the Super Bowl, and the Patriots have somehow done it year after year. You tell me something's not going on there.
Yeah. Well, remember how Goodell got his job? He's buddy with Robert Kraft.
Yes, that's true.
That's a big one. That's a huge one. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you, man. Vegas loves the Pats.
Yeah, they do. And I would love to hate them next Sunday too. So, and I think with the rest of America. Some news came out today that Alex Smith is feared to be done for 2019. Are you really surprised?
No, and I'm just concerned about him coming back at all. I mean, he had a Theismann, a Theismann injury. It was nasty. He's lucky that he kept the ankle, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I just feel for the guy, but he's also got enough money. Honestly, could you see Alex Smith doing some coaching one day?
Yeah, I think so. I think guys like that start out in their own position, start out a quarterback's coach and go from there. But I think he carries himself very well. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I kind of could see that too. I'm a little bit excited next season to see what Gruden does with some picks and the Raiders. I think so. Here's the deal. I know people are down on John Gruden, but I would like to see the Raiders do well because it's better for the league that you don't have this perennial sucky team. That's why the Cleveland Browns were interesting this year, because they have a quarterback and they have some good things going on. It's exciting to watch them compete.
One player can change the dynamic of your team, especially if that one player is getting the ball the most.
Absolutely. It can make and a quarterback, you got to build from a quarterback up.
And they've hired Mike Mayock, who is a huge, notable guy in the college football world for knowing talent, dude. With him and Gruden, they could put together a good team really fast.
It'd be interesting to see. And the league is going to want them to do well. Let's face it, they're expanding into Vegas. Right. They want to have a presence in Vegas. Within 5 years, they'll be so buddy-buddy with gambling, it's not even funny. Just wait till they host a Super Bowl in that brand new, beautiful stadium, which I'm sure is going to be sooner rather than later. So that's kind of where I see I guess going in a roundabout way there. You were asking about Alex Smith. Honestly, I think he's probably done. If he comes back, I just can't imagine him playing at the same capacity. And it's a shame because he was playing pretty well this year before he got injured.
He was. And there's so much cap tied up in him. They give him $71 million guaranteed, Robert.
I know. Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. Like, there's also the side of it. It's like, it's sad that he's not going to play anymore, but he's also like set for life. So
yeah. I think he's good to go. Did you catch any of the Senior Bowl by chance yesterday?
No, I was doing a lot of work yesterday.
So I'll be honest with you. The only reason I was remotely interested is because of said injury to Alex Smith, and Redskins may be for a first-rounder quarterback. And it's very thin this year, but we are at the 15th spot. So there's a couple of names that are in there. Drew Lock of Missouri and Daniel Jones of your football team.
Yes,
who has
sir.
Caught on quickly.
I saw his career day. I mean, I told you about the game he played against Carolina this year. He had a career day with like 5 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, over 400 yards, something ridiculous like that. I mean, here's a guy who's got the size of like a Cam Newton, but he was rushing.
He's huge.
He rushed for
I had no idea he was that big.
Yeah, he rushed for like 200 yards. I mean, and he's a physical specimen. But what's so crazy is like Coach Cutcliffe over there at Duke has quietly built himself one hell of a program at a school that people used to joke about for football.
It's true.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he does draft-wise, but it's kind of, I'd say it's kind of a weak year for quarterbacks, so he could actually he could go pretty high. And that's kind of exciting. You know, we've already got a couple state boys in the league. We've got Mitch Trubisky from UNC in the league. It'd be good to see a Duke guy doing well in the league, because finally it's going to force people to pay attention to North Carolina schools. They know us. They know us for basketball. We talk about that all the time. But you know, we've got good football programs here too. And especially ACC's finally getting attention with Clemson just dominating year in and year out.
Speaking of NC State footballers, I saw an article on Jacoby Brissett this year. It said he wanted to be a starter. I mean, I think he's tired of not that he's tired of backing up Andrew Luck, but he wants his shot, man. And he's a good quarterback.
I was going to say he backed up Tom Brady and actually played a few games for the Pats.
That's true.
He is a good quarterback. And see, that's another example. Like I always forget about Jacoby Brissett. We always think of, Russell Wilson. We think of Philip Rivers. There was Mike Glennon. Glennon was in the league for a while. I think he's a backup somewhere, but you got Jacoby Brissett. It's crazy that NC State, as in the grand scheme of things, is a small school compared to like the football schools across the country, but their impact with quarterbacks right now in the NFL is pretty strong.
Had some good ones. Philip Rivers being the strongest.
That's the strongest. Yeah, absolutely. Which is so funny because Russell Wilson almost had 2 Super Bowls to his name. Almost. God dang Patriots. I don't even want to get into that chestnut anymore. Are there any other interesting last little tidbits we need to go over?
Yeah. I thought Major League Baseball this week had its first ever unanimous.
I'm glad you mentioned this. Yeah,
Hall of Famer inducted
Mariano Rivera,
which is interesting, Robert. That you think of all the greats, right? Out of everyone that's ever played the game, and Mariano Rivera is the first one unanimously voted in.
That's the thing, man. He was regarded in baseball as the gentleman. Everyone respected him. Everyone respected him. There was never a beef with another team. They had, here's a guy who went out and won 4 World Series. Well, actually, take that back. I'm trying to remember how long he was with the team. Did he have 5 World Series to his name? Anyways, he played forever and played consistently. Here's the deal, too. He's got the most saves of any closer of all time. But the difference between him and the number 2 on the all-time list, Randy, it's a huge disparity.
It is insane, the difference.
Yeah. And I know you're not a Yankees fan, but there's a ton of Yankees that are in the Hall of Fame, and he's absolutely deserving of it. So, I understand because he was such a classy guy and he played for so long. I can see why every sports writer was like, I don't want to be the one who didn't vote for him. You know what I mean? It was a really good class. Did Mike Mussina make it in? I seem to remember seeing that he did.
He did. Mike Mussina
long pitcher for the Orioles. Actually, also played for the Yankees as well. I always liked
Roy Halladay.
I liked Mussina because he was a knuckleballer. I think knuckleballers are so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to be able to throw a knuckleball well. But yeah,
dude, I completely forgot that Roy Halladay died in 2017.
Oh, I didn't know that. I know he played for the Jays.
Yeah, he died in a plane crash. Yeah, so he was voted in posthumously.
Posthumously, wow, geez,
yeah. But
in fairness, Randy, you did spend some time in the UK. They say posthumously because they're dumb.
Because they're fucking wankers.
Oh, goodness gracious. But yeah,
I just thought it was interesting. I mean, you think about all the baseball greats, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, hell, even Ken Griffey Jr., and those guys were not voted in unanimously.
Yeah.
And let
me put it this way. The reason for it is that there were people who didn't believe they deserved to be first ballot Hall of Famers, which is there's some merit to that because, I think that now that the cherry's been popped, I think you're going to see a lot more players.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the next one I think will be unanimous will be Derek Jeter.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
And I know there's some people who are would say well, Jeter's not the greatest shortstop of all time, and it's you don't have to be the greatest of all time to get into the Hall of Fame. He has a lot of World Series, and again, it is another one of those things they did with Derek Jeter, the same thing they did with Kobe Bryant.
Did you say Derek Dieter?
I did. The farewell tour, his last year in the league, everywhere he went, they had a gift and an honoring and a thing to say goodbye to the skipper. That kind of influence for a player I have a feeling if anybody else could, it could be him. But we'll see. Plus everybody knows the Yankees sports writers. There are guys who vote on the Baseball Hall of Fame, Randy, who aren't even active baseball sports writers. They're like car salesmen, or they write for hockey now. I mean, the requirements to be a Hall of Fame voter are pretty slim.
Oh, I never knew that.
Didn't know that.
I knew you had to be a sports writer, but
but you only had to be a sports writer for 10 years, and it could have been something you started as a teenager.
Oh, wow.
So if you're now 45 years old, but you haven't written baseball in 10 years, 15 years, you still have a vote. You have it forever. There's nothing that disqualifies you from a Hall of Fame vote.
Right.
So just to put that in perspective. So when you have the players that everybody knows about, they're more likely to get in first ballot, I would think.
Right.
Anyways, food for thought. Speaking of which, on a different note, why do we even have the coaches poll in college football? Those guys aren't watching the top 25 matchup games every week.
That's true.
They're not. They're not. They are watching film for the team they're playing next week. That's what they're doing.
Right.
Why do we have a coaches poll? Why? I don't get it.
I don't know. No, very good question. I'm not sure why. You got me on that one.
Last thing before we go, Novak Djokovic just won the Australian Open for the 7th time and crushed Rafael Nadal. I mean, he pantsed him in 3 sets. I mean, just bam.
3 sets. Wow.
I haven't seen a Spaniard take that kind of hit since World War II.
Poor Nadal, man. He's just
Poor nothing. He's always had the smuggest
really
attitude.
gone downhill.
I don't
Yeah.
have any sympathy for Rafael Nadal.
Him and what's his face? Gosh,
Roger Federer.
Federer, yeah, was
Yeah.
always the best matchups.
Yeah, man. Except for this go round. But anyways, so I just figured I wanted our tennis people to know it was represented. Great match, great tournament. Oh, and what's her face on the women's side who beat Serena in the U.S. Open, won the Australian Open? Aoki, Osaka. Well, anyways, she's a Japanese
Konnichiwa.
tennis player or of Japanese heritage. I don't remember. I don't watch a lot of women's tennis, obviously. Is it Osaka? I think her name is Osaka.
Osaka. Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Oh, great. Yeah, Honda Kawasaki. Tamagotchi soy sauce. So, sayonara and the konbanwa. Got it.
And senpaku.
That pains me. Oh, great. Yeah, that pains me since I can actually speak Japanese.
Yes.
Randy, it's always good to see you, brother.
Good to be seen you, brother.
And we for those of you who are waiting us out on football, we appreciate it. After next week, there won't be any more football to talk about. Then we'll be back to Church League softball.
Yeah.
Given those hot takes nobody wants. Remember, check us out, support us. Randy and I, you of course, can find us on Facebook. You can leave your comments here on the YouTubes. You can find our little podcast on Google Play, the iTunes podcast store. We are the R&R Sports Podcasts for Rip Roarin' Randy Watkins. I am Robert Jones. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week.
Oh, yeah, brother.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. You talking about burying the axe? Hell, the axe I'm going to bury is right in your back, brother. Me and Randy Watkins riding on the back of that red and yellow Harley into the sunset.
Oh, yeah. Slim Jim's hanging in the air, brother.
What's
my hair wisping? Wispy tail. Oh, yeah.